All right. I think we're up right now. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Just kind of looking around for a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. If you didn't read the title or you didn't know, we are going to be talking about just kind of like the same process that we did the hands, we did the eyes, we did the anatomy. We're going to be talking about feet. I know, I'm sorry. We're going to be talking about feet and shoes, and how to draw them, because I find that a lot of people tend to focus on hands, and they go like, "Oh, hands are so hard," and then they focus on them and they draw them for ages, and then they're like, "All right, cool, I've got hands down," and then they try to draw feet and they're like, "Oh, wait, I don't know how to do this either." And feet tend to be a lot harder than hands, I think. Maybe that's just me, but yeah. So if you if you did not know, our growing community is filled with tons of art nerds. And we art nerds have to stick together. So if you're an art nerd to be sure to check out the links to our social media in the description below, and check out our website for our class offerings, because we're not just a YouTube channel, we are an art school as well. If you'd like to support us so we can keep making free content, consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get critiques and access to working files and a huge discount on our classes that have a limited amount of spots. So be sure to check those out before they are gone. All right. Hello, everyone. Hi, Paprick. Who else is in the chat right now? So there's Faye. Hello, lovely studio director Faye is in the chat right now. I think I see McRona there. Kiki da Cookie. I'm just gonna say Kiki. Really cute. But hey, everyone, welcome in. All right, so let's get going. Oh, I forgot to turn that off. There we go. Let's get going. So, just like with hands, feet have a very specific, well, not really. Hands aren't very specific, but feet have a more specific kind of combination of shapes that I like to use. Right? So hands, it was kind of like, oh, here's the plane and here's every single finger, and you got to make sure that the lengths are correct, right? Kind of the same deal with feet. I'm going to start with shoes, though, because those shapes tend to be the easier ones to kind of get used to. Hello, Ultimate Pro 200. Welcome in. I'm going to start with shoes, because those tend to be just a little bit easier. So shoes can be broken down, most shoes can be broken down into a few easy shapes, because you kind of want to get the shape of the whole foot first, and then you can draw on top of it, right? It's kind of like when you draw the body first, and then you get to adding the clothes, right? So if I start... Hello, Alyssa. I too am looking forward to the shoes. Actually drawing some shoes. That's what we're going to be doing today. After I get over all the basics, we're going to get into some shoes. So shoes can be broken down into an easy 4 shapes, right? For me, I always start with the ankle, which tends to be a circle. Because it's a sketch, it doesn't have to be perfect. Hello, hello, Gold Pika. Right, so the ankle tends to be more of a circle, right? Coming down from the ankle, you can have a trapezoid for your heel. I teach this to all my students when they ask about shoes. Hello, Fadwa. Right, so circle for the ankle. Cut that circle in half and draw a trapezoid, and that's your heel. You can cut that trapezoid in half again. On its side, you draw a triangle going off to the side. That's the middle of your foot, or the shoe. And then your toes can be drawn as a semicircle. So you kind of get this shape. Let me just write that down as well. General shoe shape. Circle for the ankle. Then you can get a triangle. The middle of the foot. Actually, I should probably move that over. Over here. Glad to have joined. Yeah, I'm glad you've joined as well. Right, so triangle is the middle of the foot. Oh, that should be the second one. Or the third one. The second one is trapezoid. The trapezoid is your heel. And then your toe, semicircle. Are your toes. Now remember, if you're on our Discord, you have the ability to just download all of these notes that I am taking, all of the files, because I will be uploading the JPEG afterwards, so it's all yours once the stream is over. But right now, you're just gonna have to take notes. So join our Discord if you don't want to have like extra work and have to take notes like in school. Unless you like taking notes. Be my guest. But yeah, so feet and shoes, a general shoe shape is a circle you can draw for the ankle. A trapezoid can be for the heel. The triangle can be for the middle of the foot, and semicircle can be your toes. I'll be watching it while I'm making my comic. Sweet. I would make my comic at the same time as doing this, but unfortunately I have to draw. I'm kidding. But yeah, so your general shoe shape. Hello, Flagon Pincher. Welcome back. So yes, this is your very general shoe shape that you can think of. The nice thing about using these shapes, right, is depending on how you arrange them, right, so you can rearrange how they're positioned. So if this is your trapezoid, you have the triangle here. If you have your ankle, it's like this. Right? So depending on how you arrange these shapes, you can change the direction of the shoe. So my default tends to be like Converse. This is when you have to keep your forms in mind, though. Right, so think of everything as a three-dimensional shape rather than just flat shapes. You notice how quick that is, right? It's very, very nice, depending on how you arrange the shapes. Bare feet are the worst thing to draw, change my mind. Yes, they're very hard. Hello, Shania Saunders. Welcome in. You draw as if you do that in your sleep. Well, at this point, I do. You went to your anime class yesterday, class from Wing Canvas. Ooh, which one? It might have had me, because I taught yesterday. But yes, the general shoe shape, and depending on how you arrange those shapes will be how you do. Depending on how you arrange them will affect your perspective. Let me write that down. Arrange the shapes differently to change perspective. You did cartooning anime too with Alyssa 2 days ago. Ah. You heard that, Alyssa? You have one of your students in the chat right now. My students pop in sometimes, but they don't always pop in. If I've taught you, say hi. And maybe remind me who you are, because everybody has everybody has a thing. How do I draw feet in a 2-minute gesture drawing, though? Well, that's when you do these shapes, right? But you make them, like, ultra fast. So as time goes on, you don't technically need to use these shapes very, very harshly, right? I don't really use them anymore. That's all I do nowadays, right? Just don't lift up your hands from the canvas. Combine them all to create a shape, and you can maybe clean it up afterwards if you want. Oh, Alyssa's your teacher too. Alyssa, you really been advertising, I see. right? So having that kind of quick gestural, gesture is more about letting you're doing things like fast rather than accurate. So like gesture for me would be like, actually I can just do it without the shapes. But you build it up over time. Smooth indeed. I keep forgetting I can't backspace in MediBang to delete it. So let me draw some of these again in different colors so it makes it a little bit easier to see. This is also just for the people who just download the image, right? So you have the circle for the ankle. You can have trapezoid for the heel. Triangle for the middle of the foot. Semicircle for the tip of the foot. If I do that again, different position. You can even curve some of them, right? These are just very, very basic shapes, but you can always change and bend them a little bit to match your pose or to match whatever it is that you're drawing, right? So if somebody is stepping, then more likely than not the bottom will be bent a little bit more. Again, I said I'm starting with shoes, so we're going to get into the barefoot soon, because it can be a little bit trickier. It's shoes that get very, very easy over time. Or they start off pretty easy, I find. And then as you make them more intense, then they start to get a little bit trickier. But you can request me to draw shoes later. Can we also draw animal legs with this method? Not necessarily. The thing with this is that, if you didn't know, okay, so I'm going to delve into a little bit of animal stuff. So we, as humans, our legs are called plantigrade legs. And what that means is that if we look at our legs, right, our knee, our ankle, our heel, and the tip of our toes. Say that's 4, right? So our knee is 1, our ankle is 2, heel is 3, tips of our toes is 4, right? So number 3 and number 4 stay on the ground at all times. That's why we're called plantigrade, right? It's because we have 2 of those quote-unquote joints on the ground at all time. Digitigrade is more for animals, right? So that's dogs, cats, everything like that. So they only have number 4 on the grounds, right? So it's kind of like their extra heel is a little bit higher up. So our anatomy is just a little bit different, but I guess it depends on what animal you're doing. So cool to see your geometric process. Thank you. Thank you, Geo. Geo is one of our lovely admins and does absolutely everything at Wing Canvas, actually. Hey, Jessie, I just got off for spring break a whole week. Oh, you're so lucky. I mean, I'm not in school, but yeah. Spring break. I loved having spring break. And welcome to everyone and hello, Devil Wafer. So, shoes, right? That's kind of the very basic thing that we have for shoes. So let's move on to actual feet, right? Here's the hard part. We got over shoes. That's the nice and kind of simple one. Basically, they have a longer trapezium. Yes, pretty much. And it's also the joint that is like, it's a little bit shifted. Because digitigrade animals walk on their toes, right? So if you stood on your tippy toes, that's kind of the same way that they walk. Of the nerding out of anatomy too. I love anatomy. I know a lot of people hate it, but like actual feet. Yes, now we get tricky. So actual feet, little bit trickier. So let's say that these are just shoes. General shoe shape. Yep. So let's go into the general foot shape, right? It's actually not that different. It's just now we have to worry about toes, right? We have to worry about toes and the pads of our feet, right? Tippy toes, yes. We have to worry about the pads of our feet as well. Right, let me make my eraser a little bit bigger because it likes to make itself small by default. So, the shapes, very, very similar, right? Ankle is a circle, trapezoid for the heel, triangle for the middle of the foot, but now our toes are a little bit more like a rectangle instead of a semicircle. Right? So instead of a semicircle for our toes, now it's more of a rectangle. A little bit of a rectangle, a little bit of a parallelogram. It's important, artists are kind of like academics. Yeah, kinda. Like, I mean, it depends on what kind of academic. I like science. I can't stand math. I even though I need it in some aspects, unfortunately. I know, I just want the audio clip of you saying tippy toes, yes. I mean, you work for the studio, you could just download this video and clip it. One of my characters is barefoot, so you gotta pay attention. Yes. Geometry incoming, yeah, I know. Geometry is what you need for art. Unfortunately. Right, so you kinda gotta... You can make this a little bit longer. I'm realizing now this should be a little bit longer. So this should be more like... words like that, yeah. I hate math, me too. General foot shape. So this is from the side. Your foot shape will change depending on the angle that you do this foot. That's why it's harder. So for shoes, you can use the same shapes and just rearrange them. For feet, you have to keep on adding shapes because it'll be different depending on where you go. General foot shape. So I'm just going to copy paste. Whoops. Excuse me? Oh. I got so scared I turned off the layer. I thought I deleted it. Okay. We're all good. Mini panic session over. Alright. Circle for the ankle, triangle for the middle of the foot. I'm just going to copy this over. But then instead, rectangle. Is for your toes. I'll save this afterwards. Whatever. So your general foot shape is a circle for the ankle, a trapezoid for the heel, a triangle for the middle of the foot, and your rectangle for your toes. So that's kind of it from the side. From the front, that's when things start to change a little bit, right? Because in order to draw feet more correctly, we have to think of it in forms instead of just shapes, right? For shoes, you can think of it more in forms as well, but like you can kind of leave it in shapes and get away with it. For feet, you can't do that. So instead of a trapezoid, think of a cone with the top of it chopped off. So if you've ever seen those, like, so your ankle is more of a sphere, and your heel is more of like a, if you've ever seen those pudding cups, kind of like that shape. So it's kind of like a pudding cup for your heel. The middle of your foot is almost like, how can I describe this one? It's like a door wedge almost. It's a triangular prism. So now it's a little more like a door wedge. Colors, please. Oh, yep, sure, I can do that. Okie dokie. Let's do that again then. So it's a sphere for the top of the ankle. Kind of a pudding cup shape for your heel. Like a party cup flipped, yes. Or pudding cup flipped. I think pudding cup is a little bit cuter for a subject that is not very cute. For the center of your heel, you can think of it, or the center of your foot, you can think of it as kind of like a door wedge shape. I don't know if like the prism, it's a prism, some kind of prism. This is very geometric, so I'll get into non-geometrics in a little bit. Because I don't tend to do it very geometrically. But my method of drawing feet is very unorthodox and not very great for teaching. So I'm doing it this way first. And then the toes are kind of similar to fingers, but toe length can vary based on the person, right? The only thing that will remain the same, because toe length will determine whether you have wider feet or thinner feet, right? Sandwich, yeah, kind of like a sandwich. But the main thing to keep in mind, because these will all also be rectangular prisms, your big toe is the largest one, right? with the rest of this rectangular thing left over, right, the rest of these are smaller. They get smaller. You can cut it in half, and then cut those in half again. So now you got your toes. But they should get smaller as you go down the line. So from the top, you should do an animal stream, maybe, or a shading stream. Both of those are planned, and they're in the works. They'll be coming later down the line. And I am super excited to teach animals, because I always love teaching animals. Even though I don't draw them that often. But I had a very long phase when I was younger of drawing animals. Alright, hang on. I'm going to save this file off to the side. If you're working along with me, don't forget to save. What is this? Stream 8, apparently. I'm going to save this as a PSD as well, just to save me some grief. Okay. So that's it from the side. Or a little bit from the top. It's kind of like a 3/4 angle, right? So this you can think of as a sphere, which is your ankle, which means this shape is your pudding cup. This I call like the door wedge. Very unorthodox names. And these are just rectangular prisms. If I drew them from the top, right, so your big toe would be the largest, and then it would get smaller as you go down towards it. Cut this in half, and then cut those two in half. So your big toe will always be the largest. And the rest of these are a quarter. I know, I'm sorry. I just said I hated math and I'm bringing it back. I may be tripping, but shouldn't the index toe be the similar height to that of the thumb toe? It can be. It depends on what size your foot is. So that's why it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes your index, like your second toe, so if you have your thumb, quote unquote, so your big toe, sometimes your index is taller than your big toe, sometimes it's shorter, and sometimes it's the same height. Mine is the same height. Some of my family members are longer. Some people have shorter ones. It depends on the person. Hi, hello, Blood Ryu. But yes, it does depend from person to person. Shoes are not that easy for me. Don't worry, it takes time. I'm late. You're not too late. You spilled your tea on your desk. Oh no. I am horrified of spilling anything on my desk. I have so many electronics on here. But yes, the length, you're correct. It can be the same height, but it does depend per person. General rule of thumb for me is that it just gets shorter over time. Or shorter as you go down the line. I'll write that down, actually. Generally, get shorter. Can be same, shorter, longer than big toe. That's kind of how you add variety to your feet. Everybody's feet look different, obviously. Age groups. It's the same kind of deal with kids and adults and all that with the feet, right? So it's like if you're older, your feet get a little bit wrinklier and everything like that. You're younger, they're a little bit pudgier, squishier. Thanks for being the best teacher. I don't think I'm the best teacher, but I appreciate it. Your dad bought you a bunch of snacks like Pringles, Skittles, and wafers. You're so lucky. I wish. I need to restock my snack drawer. I have a snack cabinet. Or, I guess it's a cabinet next to my desk. So I have, like, a drawer that opens, and there's, like, electronics and paper and everything in there, but then there's also a little nook that I have in there for snacks. Right now there's 2 goldfish bags, but I need to buy more Pringles. Anyway. Jessie's the best teacher. An absolutely awesome teacher, if nothing else. I'll take that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's where it gets a little bit trickier. So it was already kind of tricky with this. Let's get a little bit trickier. The bottom of the foot uses different shapes as well, right? So the bottom of the foot, now we're going to use different shapes. So we're going to go back to using shapes instead of forms. I always like to start from the heel. Actually, no, I don't. I go in a lot of different orders, but I'll start from the heel this time. Will I? No, I'm going to start from the toes. So the toes, if we kind of follow this method, right? Biggest toe first, then you can kind of draw a rectangle that curves this way, cut it in half, and then cut those 2 sides in half. So you have your toes. Right? There's other nuances to it, but I'm not going to get into those just yet. If you look at the bottom of your foot right now, you don't have to, but if you look at kind of the bottom of your foot right now, you have a section. If you've ever seen a footprint, right? You notice how footprints are always like, oh, it's the toes, and then you have like this section here, and then maybe a little over here, and then the heel, right? That's tends to be what you see of footprints. That's because those are the sections that touch the ground. Normally, your foot, the middle of your foot doesn't touch the ground completely because it's curved, right? If it does touch the ground completely, then that most likely means you have flat foot, right? Don't take my word for that. But like if you have flat foot, then you most likely have more issues with your feet. Anyway, so you most likely have this section underneath your toes, right? If you want to get really specific, you can even cut it up more and have a big pad right here underneath the big toe. Do you need to add this? No. That's just a stylistic choice. I tend to add it in. Right? Next portion would be the middle of your foot, right? Which curves. I'm not going very geometric this time. I don't really know what image association I should use for this one. But it curves inwards depending on where your big toe is, right? So it curves depending on your big toe. So you'll always kind of get this sort of shape. Always S's. You'll notice there's a lot of S's in art. And then your heel, just be drawn as a circle once again. Let me make that cleaner. So I'm not 100% certain what image. How would you draw more cartoony feet and shoes? I'm going to get into that. Right now we're going to talk about more of the anatomical stuff. But we'll get more into the cartoons in a second. Because I know we all love those, but we're not doing that just yet. We'll get into that in maybe 3 minutes, because we're almost there. Because I'm not going to go over ages with feet this time around. Let's try the outline of a steak. Yeah, I guess so. You could say it's a T-bone steak. I don't really need to... Do I need to... What words should I put here? I mean, you kind of got the different sections of the foot there. Hello, Emma. Welcome in. There's one of my students. Hello and welcome in. But yeah, feet are a lot harder, I find, than hands, but it's easier to teach because it has a very step-by-step process. Hands are kind of wacky. But yeah, you could say that this is a steak if you want. The middle section is kind of like a steak. So let me kind of draw what this looks like. I'll actually show you how I would do it with my process because I don't do this anymore. Random, right? Yes. So I don't really do any of these shape thingies anymore because I don't really have a need to. So if I just kind of show you how I draw my feet nowadays. And also never forget your nails. Another thing. Right? As I mentioned last time, never forget your nails. So I tend to do the very tips of my toes first and then the middle sections a little bit more. Right, so I'm just kind of showing you what my process is. Don't worry about this. You don't have to follow it. Her foot looks better than the shoes at normal. Yeah, that's fine. It's probably because I went over the feet a little bit, or the shoes a little bit more briefly than the feet. Just because I really wanted to make sure that I drove the feet home. Hello, Duru. Welcome in. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. Duru. Hello, welcome in. We're just about done with the anatomical section of feet, right? Let me talk about toes as well, just a little bit. Image size. No, let's go to canvas size. Edit canvas size. Canvas size. Let's make this 4200 because I'm just going to make it longer after this. Okay. So I'm just going to talk about toes briefly just before ASMR pen glide, yes. I'm going to talk about toes very briefly. So for toes, for the big toe, you kind of think of it as a lopsided egg. That's how a lot of big toe shapes tend to be. Lopsided egg, and then there's a section between. Right? You'll notice, you kind of look at your toes, right? You have a section that actually touches the ground, but it curves. Your pronunciation's really accurate, don't worry. Oh, thank you. I'm glad. So you kind of got an egg shape for the big section of the toes. And then for your little toes, you kind of have a little circle. And then it's the pad underneath. You can make this a little more ovular as well if you'd like. And then it gets shorter and shorter as you go downwards. Kind of like that. Your pinky toes sometimes bend inwards, though, depending on what kind of shoes you wear, because sometimes your toes get kind of squished over time. Think of big toe like a big egg. Think of little toes as smaller circles. Hands are terrible. Don't worry. Listen, we all at different sections of our journeys, right? I've been doing this for way too long. Like, we're all at different sections, right? No need to worry. We all get better as time goes on. But with that, that is... The big toe do be big, though. Indeed it is. Look at your own feet. That big toe do be big. But yes, it's 4:34, so that means that we are at the top of the hour. So if you did not know, we are an art studio as well as a YouTube channel. So if you want to check us out in all of our classes, be sure to check out our website down below, wingcanvas.com, so you can check out other classes. I am one of the teachers. Oh, hello, Jess is cool gaming. Thank you for the donation. Fee time, yes. But thank you for the donation. I think those are euros. 1.5 euros. Cool. But thank you for the donation. But yes, just again, as a reminder, we are not only a... whoa, what happened there? There we go. We are not only a YouTube channel, but we are also a studio. So be sure to check out all of the classes that we offer. And with this little thing here, our feet and shoes tutorial, you are going to be able to download the JPEG. It is all yours. You can keep it, do whatever you want with it. And those will be on our, that will be uploaded to our Discord, just the JPEG. Cute little animation flying thing. Yeah, that's our wing canvas guy. So you'll be able to download the JPEG on our Discord if you join it, so be sure to join it so you can get access to all of those little things. But if you want my working file, you are going to have to join our Patreon. Our Patreon is where you can get access to my working files, and you can get discounts on the classes like I mentioned before. But yeah, so let's get back to it. Okie dokie. So, feet and shoes. So these are with slightly more realistic proportions. All you can really do if you want to change them up, right, is just kind of remove shapes. If you make them a little bit more cartoony, right? Canvas size. Little animations are so cute. Thank you. I mean, I didn't do them. That's for our lovely video editor, Jessie, I believe, is the one who did those. Partially Jessie, partially Yuri, I believe. But yes, all of our social media and Patreon can be found in the description below. Should I make a new layer? That's okay. I should have made this longer. No, okay. Instead of... Let's make this taller. So let's go to 6,000. Yeah. So to make them a little bit more cartoony, don't remember who requested that. Bubbly butterfly. How you make them a little bit more cartoony. It's kind of like I mentioned, you just remove shapes. Truly. So, for like chibi feet, how do I do chibi feet? It's kind of like, hang on, let me grab this green. For chibi feet, all I really do is I draw kind of like a cylinder. Maybe add on like a little semicircle. And then just add on little beads for the toes that get smaller. Very, very cute and small. Your hands look like a hand that got, stinged 1,000 times. Maybe it's just stylized then. I tend to draw very thin hands, so. Right, so you could have like little toes like this. Very small and cute. Right, sometimes children's feet are drawn like this too. Again, chibi and children's feet, very, very similar. Like I mentioned with the hands though, never forget your nails. Your nails are very, very important. Keep them. I need to see a doctor for that. Nails are important. Sometimes cartoonists, they don't even draw the toes separated from each other, so they just kind of do that, which is valid. You know, it's all for style. Baby feet so cute. Baby feet are very cute. I mean, babies are cute just in general. I find that the older you get, the more you find babies cute. I never used to find babies cute when I was a kid, and now I find babies adorable. Right, so some people just draw feet like this. Sorry about that. You tend to make your hands a little more chibi, you guess. Never was good at drawing joints and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. That's a style. Though I do find that it is better to learn your realism a little bit more as well. I do not like children. Yes, I know, Emma. But yeah, a lot of, like, cartoony feet, it's really just rearranging shapes, changing out the shapes, stuff like that. Cartoony shoes, that's a little bit trickier, because if you do something that's a little bit more realistic, then it's like you actually following the reference to a shoe. But like cartoony shoes can be whatever you want, right? It's like you just kind of really messing around with it, right? So for me, I have, like, my default shoe is a very, like, beat up sneaker, right? So I tend to do a very beat up Converse for my shoes, right? So I kind of exaggerate shapes a little bit more. This tends to be my kind of shoe. Bless you. Thank you. So I kind of got this shape with my shoes. But of course, there's a lot of different shapes of shoes, right? If I were to do a heel, obviously I would have to draw the shapes in different positions. Maybe different lengths as well. So if I have a heel, the middle of the foot might have to be more like this instead. Right? It's kind of a pointed rectangle. What color haven't I used? Orange-ish. And then the tips might be a little bit smaller, right? So a little bit smaller for that semicircle. It's a little bit more like that. Somehow I always find that I kind of struggle with heels. Depends on what kind of heel I'm drawing. Right? The shoe type you need to work on is sandals and slippers. The thing with sandals is that like, it depends what kind of sandals it is, right? Because you have, like, open-toed sandals. Slippers are nice. Honestly, I find slippers nice because it's like you can cover up all the toes. So it's like, for a slipper, it would be like, you have the leg, ankle, and you can just kind of draw the shape of the foot. And then all you gotta do is, like, kind of draw in that heel shape, cover up the toes with a semicircle, and then just draw a flat thing underneath the foot. So you can kind of cover it up. It's a little bit rough, but you know what I mean? Sandals can be a bit tricky because you gotta draw all the toes in, and then you gotta, like... Yeah, because you gotta draw in all the toes, and then it's like... You gotta worry about how to... Oh, one thing that I didn't go over, when you draw, like, a more realistic foot... Oh my god, I forgot to do this. Okay, wait. Let's make this longer. 6,200. Let's go. Oh. So when you draw a foot as well, like an actual foot, not just the shapes. Most feet, the bottom here should curve. The top here should also curve, right? Right, so the bottom of your foot, the middle of your foot section here should curve, and then the top of your foot curves a little bit as well. One time a girl drew a hand and thought that it was... Oh, it had 6 fingers when she drew it. Oh no. I mean, makes a pretty good horror hand. Oops. Right, so you could have, like, the sandal here, and then you just gotta draw the straps on. I mean, this is a flip-flop. Depends on what kind of sandal you're going for, right? You know what my favorite shoe combination to draw is? I love drawing shoes, but my favorite combination to draw, even though I don't wear it, I don't like the look of it, is socks and sandals. Because you don't have to worry about the intense nuance of a shoe, right? You don't have to worry about the intense nuance of a foot, because you can draw kind of the general shape of a foot. Right? But you don't have to worry about toes, so you can just cover it up with a sock. And then a slide, like an Adidas slide, it's just a rectangle curved over top of the foot, attached to a bottom piece down here. And that's it. Socks with sandals. At one point, I was drawing all my characters with socks with sandals because it was, like, so easy, right? It's like all you need is, like, that flat piece that's underneath the foot with the little rectangle that goes over the foot. Curves over it. And the sock. In Gothic, there's a pianist mutant with 6 fingers. Looks really natural. Honestly, I bet pianists wish they had 6 fingers. I used to be a pianist. I haven't played piano in ages, but like stuff like that, lots of fun. Okay. Yes, hello Amanda, welcome in. But yes, we have gone over pretty well all the basics that I wanted to talk about feet. A lot shorter than the hands. Sup, hello Jeremiah. So a lot shorter than the hands. But that's because I kind of wanted to leave some time. So what we are going to be doing is we are now going to be drawing shoes. Shoes isn't something, like, the actual nuance of shoes is something that I can't really teach because there are so many different types of shoes. So what we're going to do instead is you're going to request some shoes for me. And I'm going to draw them, right? So make them as crazy detailed as you want. I am not picky in the slightest because I love drawing shoes. So, oops. If you have any specific shoes you want to request for me, I will gladly draw them. You thought it looked cool and then I noticed it. Hey man, 6 fingers? I wish. If you have any specific shoes you would like me to draw, let me know in the chat. If not, then I will start with military boots. I guess we're starting with military boots. It's like combats. I love combats. I have a pair of these, but they're kind of old, so I wish I could get a new pair. I'm just gonna save a few references. Boots like goths wear. Platforms? I love platforms as well. Definitely do that. Platforms are pretty similar to combats. I'm just saving references off to the side here so I can open them in the reference window so you can see what I'm doing. Actually, you know what? No, I should move them over. References are your best friend, guys. Shoes for a while is what you're absolutely going to want references for. Combat, boots like goths wear, platform boots, platform shoes, Adidas Superstars, robotic foot shoes. Robotic shoes. I'm gonna have to do that off the top of my head. So platform boots. Platform boots goth. There we go. Oh yeah, with the extra buckles and stuff. I love that. Platform shoes. You guys are just getting me to draw the entire Why Are You catalog. That's what's happening here. Why Are You shoes? I want a pair of those so bad. I'm gonna go with a pair of platform Dr. Martens because platform sneakers. Let's try that instead. Yeah. Ah, yeah, I knew it. Why Are You shoes, as always. Platform. So I'm just kind of collecting them for a second. Can I do Dr. Martens? Yes. Not me struggling to find the right pen for line art. Hello, Rihanna. Personally, I use the pen tool, just the default pen. Oops. Yeah, I find that's easier. Adidas Superstars. Woo! Speaking of spilling, I almost knocked my water off. Superstar shoes. Ah, yes. I think my aunt has a pair of these. Superstar robotic shoes I'm going to do off the top of my head. Foot brace. Yes, I can do that. Foot brace. Not really a shoe, but... Like a foot brace for a broken foot? Or like just the wrap? Adidas NMD. Oh, I love these. I like shoes, man. Everyone likes Adidas. I'm more of a Fila's person. Sorry, I'm that person. Platform Crocs, yes. My nephew came into my room, spilled his milk earlier. Oh no! Wedge heels. I used to have a pair of wedges. I don't think they fit me anymore. And then Emma said Dr. Martens. I have a pair of white Doc Martens, so I'm just going to draw the pair that I own. For broken foot. Okay. Foot brace. So that's this then. Okay. I can't Crocs. Platform Crocs. Yes, I can do platform Crocs. I'm just gathering everything. Because I'm going to draw everything. I hate these. I'm going to draw everything, but I'm going to only render out one of them. Okay. Now we can come back to this window. No, don't select from the cloud. No, 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 no. Okay, what was first? It was combat boots. So combat boots, fun thing about them, right, is that it depends on what you're looking for. You'll notice that my sketch is going to be really, really fast because I tend to do all of my... When I draw shoes, I tend to do all of my actual shoe bits on, like, the good layer. You gotta kind of just understand the nuance of whatever shoe you're looking at, right? So especially... I'm going to make this window a little bit longer, a little bit bigger. So especially the shape of the area that goes around the tongue. The tongue of the shoe, if you didn't know, is that thing that's in between these things. So, I don't know what this is, but this is the tongue of the shoe. It's the one in the middle, that one, right? So the ones that cover up the tongue of the shoe, this shape will change depending on what kind of shoe you're drawing. All right, so the combats will go back like that somewhat, right? And then sometimes they have this little heel section here. And sometimes they have a little tag on the back too. Dr. Martens are very known for having the big tag on the back. The main thing you want when you're building up a visual library, right? Building up a visual library is you figuring out the patterns that you notice. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The big thing about you building up a visual library is finding the patterns that you see when it comes to drawing specific things, right? So for boots or for shoes, right, what are the repeated things that you see them do a lot of the time, right? So sometimes it's this back ankle thing. Sometimes it's not a circle or like an eyelet that they use, but a little catcher, right? Like a hook for your laces. With boots and heavier combat boots, they have these catchers that they use. For boots, they have these patterns at the bottom here. More often than not. Right, so I'm not trying to follow it exactly. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So these catcher things, you'll have every bit of the lace on the outside, right? I'm going to do the laces off to the side for a second, right? So when you do laces, a lot of people will just do this, right? That's not how laces go. I can't stress that enough. That is not technically how laces go. So if we have our eyelets, right, make sure that they're the equal amount on each side. Yes, you should count. Right, so if there's 4 on one side, 4 on the other, right? So if it overlaps here, it'll go underneath when it goes to the next eyelet. You have to keep the pattern up, right? Because think of it as wrapping around this section, right? It wraps around, so you're not going to see it go underneath here when it comes back out. Right? Or it can be the other way around. I gotta work on laces, yeah. Yeah, don't worry. Laces are really annoying to draw, but I draw them anyway. Right, and then the last one, they'll both connect here. Right, and that means that the loose ones come out from underneath, like that, from the top. Right, so figure out a pattern that the laces follow, right? So if it goes underneath here, it'll loop around, come back out. Go underneath, come back around, loop out, right? If you have to, like, go to your own shoelaces and see how they wrap around the sides of your shoe. And that's how you would do a more realistic shoe. And of course, oops, make sure that it curves around the shape of the foot as well, right? This is still a three-dimensional object, and we want to think of it as that way, right? You don't want to draw your laces completely flat against the shoe. Combat boots. Right, so I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. But overall, it's the same with fashion. It's the same with, like, shoes and people and everything. Use references until you don't think you need to anymore, right? So if you can't do this from memory and you can't explain it, then you're going to still need a reference, right? So I find that, like, if you have the ability to explain it to someone else, and you can draw it without a reference, then you're good and you can stop using the reference and it's successfully in your visual library. But if you can't do it from the top of your head, you can't explain it to someone else, then you might still need a reference. They always say to add seam lines to your clothes. The same thing can be said for boots, right? We have this little section here, right? I can't draw here, but you notice you can see the little stitching lines, right? Don't forget those. And if you don't want to add the little stitching lines, at least add the extra lips of fabric, right? Because it needs extra support for the laces. So they add on another layer of fabric over here. And your eyelets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Depending on the shoe as well. This is the tongue. The tongue might be curved and go over top of the other sides of the boot. Alright. There's that little tag. It's a little bit different with these catchers because they're all on the outside. should curve on the top, but underneath it should go towards the eyelets. Yes. Very briefly turning off my opacity by pressure, just so I can use this a little bit easier. So it goes over. If you really want to add that a little extra layer of detail as well, you can have it like protruding a little bit on top. Right, so it leaves a little bit of a bump, a little bit of texture. And depending on where the laces cross, that will identify how your perspective is as well. Right? So if I turn that off for a second, combat boot. Right? This is a fairly simple way to do it. Though, I could add this little thing here as well. Just a little detailing up at the top. Right, more likely than not, you're not going to see all the little detailings and whatever if you're just drawing it out of character, right? But it certainly helps if you add on a little bit more of that extra. But with that, that is the top of the hour. So if you did not know, we are not only a YouTube channel, but we are also an art studio. So I am a teacher for this art studio. Behind the wing canvas shop right now is Alyssa, and she's one of the other teachers. We have I believe Faye is in here as well as Geo. Well, Geo's not a teacher, but Faye is. So if you would like to check us out, be sure to check out our website for all of our classes. And the file that you are seeing here before you, this is a file that will be uploaded to our Discord, so you will be able to access it from there. So if you would like to join our Discord, be sure to check us out there, and you'll be able to access all my JPEG files. You can download it, do whatever you want with it. It's all yours. But if you want my working file, you are going to have to join our Patreon. So our Patreon is where you can get access to all of my working files. We have critique sessions with all our Patreon members, and you can get discounts on the classes that I mentioned earlier. So be sure to check that out afterwards as well. All of our links are in the description, and you will be able to see them there. But yeah. All right, back to drawing shoes. What was the next one? So the combat boot is done there. All right. It was the combat boot. What was it afterwards? It was combat boot. Oh, and then it was goth platforms, wasn't it? These things. Chunky belts. That means that instead of laces, now we're dealing with belts. This one you're also probably going to want to include a lot of the leg too, right? So I'm actually going to start at the knee. I guess we're drawing it from the side too as well. So with platforms, like any kind of platform, it's really just an extension of the foot, right? So you're going to want to keep the same shape. Belts, yes, I love belts. I don't wear any, but I like the aesthetic. So platform shoes, it's really just an extension of the bottom of the foot. You got to keep the same kind of curve, though, as the bottom of the foot, too, right, to kind of mirror it. Thing with tall boots as well, you see how I'm curving around the leg? You don't want to just draw a straight line, right? Just drawing, unless if it's like ultra cartoony, but if you're drawing just a straight line, it ends up looking very, very flat, right? You want it to kind of curve around the leg, give it a little bit more of that three-dimensionality, right? How you curve it depends on the perspective of the leg. These are all nuances that you kind of get used to as you get like more and more into drawing. But oh my god, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 belts. And there's a little bit of a curve here, yes. So that means that there is the sides of the shoe here. They're very wide as well. You can kind of get that shape there. This time there isn't one of these back thingies, so I don't have to draw that in, right? It's different for every single shoe that you draw, right? Sometimes there are things that are the same, but majority of the time it's different. So you got 1, 2, again, curving around the leg, right? You want to curve, keep that curve in, right? We want to keep the 3-dimensionality, so you want to always keep that in mind. So it shouldn't be going straight across, you want to curve it a little bit, right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know what? I'm going to cap it out at 7. I think that was 8, but that's okay. For those of you who want to go into concept art, by the way, count your things, right? So if you have 7 eyelets on one shoe, you want to have 7 eyelets on the other one as well. They got to be equal. If you're doing a turnaround, you want to make sure that everything is counted for, because yes, they will count it. These past few streams have been ultra helpful in deciding alternate things for my characters to wear. Yeah. I always found that, like, I started learning more fashion once I learned that, I realized that all my characters wore the same thing over and over, and I was like, that's so boring. So I was like, it's time to draw more things. Actually helped me solidify the normal outfits. That's good. Buckles, if you didn't know how buckles work, you just take this one for instance. Right, a buckle is not a square that just goes over the whole thing, right? Super cartoony, but if you want something a little bit more realistic, you're going to have one side that goes over it. The other side will be underneath. So it'll kind of be like a rectangular U that goes over that. And then a little anchor, the anchor point that goes inside the eyes, or the circle, or the holes of the belt, right? You can even have a thing here that like closes it up. That's what's happening over here. There's a little extra metal piece that closes it up. You don't have to add this. Not all belts have that, but you can add it up if you want that extra flair. That's how I'm going to do all of them though, so it's kind of a... I agree. Channel is super underrated. Thank you. Right, so again, that kind of... Or a C. This looks more like a C. So it's kind of like the letter C, right? Because the extra bit of the buckle is underneath the fabric. And the little anchor that goes down into there. Hey, if you think our channel's underrated, share it with your friends. If you haven't gotten annoyed by my voice yet. Right? So if shoes take you a long time, that's because it's working. Shoes take a crazy amount of time, especially if you want to make them like super, super detailed. I find they're really fun to draw, but man, it can be soul-crushing to draw shoes. That's why with character design, choose your elements wisely. If you're doing a comic, if you're doing like anything, make sure that you're drawing someone that you have the capacity to draw over and over, is what I'm saying. I would share, but none of them like to draw. Convert them. I'm kidding? I'm kidding. But, well, it's each their own. Thank you for supporting us regardless. I cleaned this one up way too much. I'm also feeling that it's kind of missing something from the back here. I might just add that little extra shape just for fun. Makes it feel a little bit more filled, a little more full. I realize most of my characters don't wear shoes. All my characters wear shoes, but it's like, it depends on how fashionable they are. With how intense I have to go with them. Alright, so something more like this, a little more buckly. Oops. like I mentioned, when you're lining or kind of cleaning something up, this isn't really lining, this is just me cleaning it up. When you're cleaning up something, make sure that you use your entire arm where applicable, right? Because it'll save your wrist as time goes on. But also make your lines a little bit smoother. Also work faster, because if you go a little bit too slow, then your lines will be a little bit too shaky. Most of yours wear sandals, slippers, or just stockings. I understand. Most of mine wear that default, the default Converse that I draw every single time. Then again, it's just because they're part of a comic and I have to redraw them over and over, so I'm being smart with what shoes they wear. Or it's the Pumas that I wear over and over. I can never remember the name of them. It's the... Hang on. It's like a Puma... It was like Puma did a collaboration with an artist, and I don't remember who it was. And they had like this really cool shoe that I really wanted, and I ended up getting it. But not the collaboration one, just the stylish shoe. Or select the stabilizer to the maximum. Yes, you can. I prefer not to rely on the stabilizer a lot of the time. If I'm moving fast, then I turn off the stabilizer and I work just with my ultra fast liner. But yes, stabilizer is another way to go. But if you're not working digitally, then you don't have that option. So sometimes you gotta learn to line without a stabilizer. It's drawback, so I can't draw anything traditionally now. Yep. I work with both, so I gotta keep that up. For those of you who are just joining in as well, hello. I'm just kind of drawing some shoes now. If you have any to request, leave them in the chat and I will gladly look up a ref and download it. We're on shoe 2. I don't know how many shoes I have, but I have quite a bit. Hopefully I can do all of them. We'll see. I might be overestimating myself once again. Yes, as it goes. With anything, but with shoes and especially like shoes and clothes and fashion, everything like that, the best way to add them to your visual library is to understand the patterns that you see. Right? Sometimes a lot of shoes will have similar things to them, and then kind of learn the different design tricks that you would like on top of that. The thing with shoes is that they have a lot of little details, so you're gonna have to kind of get used to all of them. I want a pair of platform shoes. My parents are like, it's gonna be so hard to walk in them, and I'm like, that's the point. Alright. Yeah, so those kind of ultra platformy buckley shoes. There we go. What was next? It was... Was that the Adidas? I think so. Or was it just platform shoes? Adidas, yeah. So the Adidas were next. It was the Adidas Superstars. These ones. Ah. I remember these being everywhere. These are nice because they're very small. They're ankle shoes. So they don't have too much nuance when it comes to drawing the ankle and whatever. I'm gonna follow the reference, work from the side. So especially as you get kind of more... Oops, this is also on the wrong layer. Especially as you get more well-versed. With drawing anything, you start to skip steps. Right, so I skip a lot of the shape steps nowadays. But don't try to skip steps before you have them memorized, please. Right? You gotta draw them over and over and over before you can properly skip steps. Because if you start to skip steps a little bit too early, then you start to lose your fundamentals. Because your fundamentals should be addition to a style. Right? You can explain certain things away with a style, but not everything. Ah, this back lip thing here. That's also very popular with sneakers. That goes up at the top. Another good thing about these streams is that I'm refining the anatomy of your characters too. That's good. I found that as I got older and like I started to study more things, I started to refine the anatomy of all my old OCs as well. Oh, there's too many eyelets there. I'm just gonna make it up. Pick and choose your battles. This extra little stripe here, also quite common. Feels like just by watching I get better at it. You know what's funny is that goes both ways. So I feel like as when I first started teaching at Wing Canvas, that was 2 years ago, by the way. Wow. 2 years? I guess so, huh? It's about 2 years since I joined Wing Canvas. Or it'll be 2 years soon. Because we used to be a live studio, right? So we used to be like a live studio that you could actually visit physically. But when I first started teaching, I found that I was able to like explain a lot of what I was doing better, and I got better at drawing too. Because it was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of revisiting all the fundamentals that I kind of pushed to the side for a bit. But then I started teaching, and I was like, oh yeah, these exist. And I kind of reapplied them to the style that I already had, and I got better at drawing. So not only do these streams help you, but they help me. So it goes kind of both ways. It also always helps to have a process. It's nice to watch somebody else's process as they go. I get a lot of techniques by watching speed paints. Or I learn a lot from techniques when I watch speed paints. So I always prefer speed paints over actual tutorials, even though I make them, which is kind of funny. So this is kind of an example, while I'm drawing this Adidas shoe, this is kind of an example of like the patterns of shoes. Oh, that tends to be the one thing that people struggle with the most. Sometimes it's like, you get the anatomy of the shoe down, right? You kind of understand it. You're like, alright, I can do this now. But then you have to worry about the patterns of a shoe, right? Because the patterns, like how you, the designs that you add to a shoe, sometimes they can feel kind of cheesy or like they don't feel right, right? So analyze how shoes look. Analyze how those, what repeated patterns you see. Very helpful. Will this be uploaded on the channel to rewatch and keep practicing with? Of course, they're always, they always stay up. So every stream that I have done remains on the channel. And then later it's edited into a highlights video by our lovely editor, Jessie. Or one of our lovely editors. We have a lot now. But yes, all streams are available for replay in full on our channel that you can always refer back to. Your PC crashed? No! I just got this PC. I'd be very upset if it crashed already. Eyelets with shoes as well, usually they have a little, depending on like how intense the shoe is. So combat boots usually have a metal eyelet. Sneakers tend to not have eyelets at all, unless if it's like a Converse sneaker. They tend to not have metal eyelets. My Fila's don't have metal eyelets, but my my Converse do. Some of my Vans have plastic ones. Heck yeah, thank you. No worries. Right? Adidas! Oh, there's little bits of pattern here too. Just a little bit there, a little bit here. Right, to make your observances when you draw shoes. If I ever go silent, I'm focusing, I'm sorry. You just get the sound of my my pen that moves sometimes. Alright. So that's the Adidas. Adidas. What was next? It was... Platform Adidas. Robotic feet. Ah, yes, robotic feet. Here's the thing with robotics, right? Robotics are incredibly difficult. And I said, I've taught my students robotics before, but I found that I was very bad at teaching those lessons. Could you show us how to draw a super foreshortened feet and shoes? So a foot and a shoe, I'll do that for the next one then. No, actually the robotic one, not a good idea. I'll do that with the platform shoe. Because super foreshortened with shoes is the same thing. It's the same deal here, right? You just got to arrange the same deal here. You just got to arrange the shapes the correct way. But I'll do that for the platform shoe. For the robotic shoe, robotic feet, just in general, right? I'm going to do this off the top of my head because when you think of robotic things, you have to kind of give it a nuance. Robots and mecha are so difficult. Yes, they are. The thing with robots and mecha is you have to kind of think of how things connect and what's it called? And what kind of nuances you want it to have. The thing with robotics is you have to have a certain mindset where you understand how things connect and everything like that. At least in the super detailed, yeah. Like have I taught robotics before? Yes, I just find that I'm not very good at it. It was like, cause with robotics, the number one tip that I gave all my students was like, robotics you can relate back to anatomy in a lot of areas, right? So usually when designs, this can be for designs in general, but for robotics especially if you struggle with it, you can always relate your design back to anatomy in order for it to make more sense, right? You have to figure out how they move and what moves, and yeah, I get that. One thing that I always do is like I kind of look at how ball jointed dolls work, and I work along that. But yeah, when you kind of work with anatomy, you can take inspiration from how certain things connect and how your joints connect, and you can implement that into your robotic designs. So this robotic foot isn't going to be amazing because I don't want to spend a bajillion years on it, because I will if I take too long on this. But yes, maybe one stream I'll do a proper robotic drawing, but it will have to take up the entire stream time because I will not be able to do a robotics lesson properly, I don't think. Right, so you can kind of relate a lot of things back to initial anatomy. Oh no, I'm late. It's okay. This will always be up on the Discord afterwards, which you can save and download. Or it's uploaded to Instagram, I believe, as well, but like in chunks or kind of a little bit lower res. But yes, hello Basil, and hello DNG. Yes, we were doing shoes. We're doing shoes and feet, so I am drawing the shoe portions right now. You have a robotic foot and the thinking behind it. Thank you. It's kind of messy. I would have done something nicer if I had more time. Yeah, robots are really cool. It's like I've already said a bajillion times that I hate drawing vehicles, and that's the one thing I hate drawing. It's not that I hate drawing mechs and robots, it's that I'm not good at them, so I don't do them often. But when I am forced to, or like if I have the ability to sit down and draw one, because they take me so long. Like if you think I'm fast, like these robotics take me absolute ages to do. If I actually sit down to try and do one properly. But I love the look of them. Like, I'm so bad at them, but I appreciate anyone who can do robotics off the top of their heads. My dad and my brother are very robotics people, so, like, I can't, but I can't. I'm not like that. Robot stream when? I don't know. We actually haven't planned one of those, so all of our upcoming streams. After this one, by the way, we're starting our perspective streams. So the next 3 to 4 weeks are going to be dedicated to perspective and learning how to do it. So right now it's like the ultra basics, and then we're going to get into stuff like perspective and backgrounds and stuff like that. And then I believe it's a month of animals, if I remember correctly. Robots. Alright, so my kind of thinking is that like it connects here and you can like rotate a little bit. I saw your avatar looking concerned at the 2 or 3 point. I'm concerned more for you than for me. I feel that. I love perspective. It's one of my favorite things to teach, but I find that people find it hard to keep up because perspective is hard if you're learning it for the first time. I adore perspective. I'm not really great at it if it's traditional, but like in terms of digital work, I love that. I only hate it when I do it traditionally just because like I have to bring out a ruler and I'm like, I don't want to touch a ruler, man. Alright, what was the one after the robotic foot? It was foot brace. Yes. Foot brace isn't really a shoe, but I'll count it. Foot brace. So these things. So I've never drawn one of these before. So foot braces, you're gonna have to kind of follow. It's like a thick sock. That's kind of how I describe it. So this one has a lot of thicker shapes. It's meant to kind of support the foot, so of course it's going to be a little bit chonkier. Right? Not really meant to be fashionable, it's meant to support the foot. I swear, when I was younger, everyone wore one of these at least once. I've never broken my foot before. I've never broken any bone in my body before. It's like I've never had to deal with these. Ah, here's a return of kind of like a strap buckle. You notice it here, right? One side goes over top, the other side goes underneath. This one's a little more for adjusting, though. So what's happening here, I'm just realizing now. Yeah, so this one's more for adjusting. So this side goes in a loop. So think of it, if you had a little rectangle here, right? That went like this. You have two sides of your fabrics that loop around it. That's kind of what's happening there, from what I can see. Right, so it's kind of looping around both sides there. Oops. Chonky. Chonky indeed. Your mom has a foot brace, so you gotta learn how to draw it. Yeah. You had some trouble learning perspective, but it clicked after a bit. Yeah. It takes a bit of time. Right, so when you're looking at references, there's a difference between looking at a reference and understanding your reference. I always say this, right? It's a difference between learning how to draw something and understanding it. Right, so when you're looking at a reference, make sure that you understand what you're looking at, and that's how you can draw it in different scenarios. Right, observe what's happening. Right, so I'm kind of seeing those two little wrapped sections here. And there's this section that wraps around the leg as well. Remember to keep it 3D. We always want to think in 3 dimensions. Oh, glad that didn't really cut off. Sometimes I forget that some of my shortcuts don't work in MediBang. Yeah, so now I'm trying to observe this little section down here. So there's this, which clips on a rotational thing underneath here. So this goes here. This has a little rotational thing there that goes onto like a, it looks kind of like a clip. It's probably more of like an anchor. And those attach onto straps that wrap. Right, this is Velcro, so you don't have to worry about that whole lace thing with these. Lucky, lucky. These are more like, it all wraps, right? So again, kind of understanding the reference instead of just kind of looking at it and trying to copy makes it a lot easier to work with in the future. Like, physically tell yourself what you observe about something, right? That's kind of what I'm doing to you guys right now. So I'm like, I'm saying I'm saying what usually goes through my head when I look at references. Understand your reference. Don't just look at it. So there's actually foam here. Yeah, that's foam. And then this is a piece of plastic over here instead. So this goes like that. Yeah, and then this piece of fabric wraps around here. And remember, always that 3-dimensionality. I've repeated it like a bajillion times now, but I'm gonna keep on repeating it. Because that 3-dimensionality is important. Chonk. Chunk. Indeed, indeed. There's a little bit of shape here. Because this is more of a rectangle. Yeah, it's a rectangle. This whole shape feels more like that. Yeah. Oops. Draw what you see, not what you think you see, but understand what you see and not what you think you see as well. Don't try to bring a random understanding to whatever you're drawing, right? Be sure that you actually understand it. Relativity and relating back to, like, relate it to the objects that are in proximity to whatever you're drawing, or relate it to relate it to whatever's in proximity, relate it to other things, stuff like that. Because when we get to the animal streams, which is like a couple months away, when we get to them, you'll notice how much I'll relate back to humans. Because it's a lot easier to understand animal anatomy if you understand human anatomy first. This is your excuse to watch our anatomy stream again. I'm kidding. Unless you want to. But yeah, you'll find that learning animal anatomy gets a lot easier once you understand people. Because all of our anatomy is quite connected, actually. Yep, and that's a piece of folded fabric that folds upon itself a couple times. Like a burrito. Hi, hello, some Uga. Welcome in. Alright, and that's the foot brace. We're just drawing things that go on feet, because this isn't technically a shoe, but, foot stream. Alright, let me move this over just so I have the... No. Just so it's kind of all in a similar area, but with that is we're getting close to about a half hour left, but we're a little bit over. We're a little bit under half an hour left, so now we have about 23 minutes left. But with that means that we can do another kind of plugs. If you did not know, we are not only a YouTube channel, but we are also an art school, so be sure to check out our website link in the description to check out all the classes that we offer. I am one of the teachers, as well as some of my lovely coworkers, Alyssa, Faye, some of the others that have popped in chat before. So be sure to check us out there. And this sheet that you see before you with all these shoes and feet and whatever, this is going to be available on our Discord, which you can download for free. It's all yours. If you join our Discord, there's a JPEG that you can take, keep it, study it, do whatever you want with it. Just don't repost it, but it's all yours that you can keep. But if you want my working file, you're going to have to join our Patreon, where you can get access to all of my working files, as well as join our critique days, which we have, and you can also get a big discount that is available as one of the tiers, a big discount on our classes that is available as one of the tiers, but those are in limited supply, so make sure that you grab one of those spots before they are gone. Alright, let's get back to this. What was after the foot brace? It was... Adidas NMDs. More Adidas. Y'all like Adidas. Where were those? Adidas NMDs. Yes, these kind of flat boys. So these are like runners and trainers. Runners and trainers have a funky heel. With that, the heel protrudes a little bit further than the actual foot, right? So it goes a little bit farther out. And it fins out towards the toes, right? You'll see that with a lot of, like, modern running shoes. Is that it kind of extends back there and gets pointed towards the tip of the toe, right? It's a very big pattern that you'll notice. But other than that, quite similar to the rest of Adidas shoes. I shouldn't have chosen the white ref. I can't see this that well. My eyes are dying, guys. And they also have this thing here, which kind of connects the sole. These two sections up here, and the repeated back emblem on the heel of the foot. Right? There's another one of those tags. You kind of notice a lot of similarities between some of the shoes, right? Well, obviously the shape is the same. You'll notice a lot of these back emblems that are happening. Laces tend to be the same. Stuff like that, right? Doing multiples of these kind of lets you see all the different patterns that shoes present. Right? I'm very used to drawing sneakers, so this won't take me very long. Right, so sneakers, Sneakers I tend to find, like, it's easier to draw them faster. Really intense, like, detailed shoes. Fila's are one that I find people tend to struggle with a little bit more. Just because they tend to be very intense with their patterns. Fila's, Balenciagas are one that I see a lot of people struggle with, but they love to draw them just because they look pretty cool. Like the Balenciaga chunky shoes. Do you know how much those shoes cost? Like almost $2,000. Could you imagine? I don't have that money. $2,000 shoes. Hello, Nana Everrose. Welcome in. That's another kind of repeated thing you might see with shoes is this little strip of color on the bottom, right? You'll see that sometimes with different shoes that you might draw. A little strip of color that goes along the sole of the shoe. You have a friend who was a shoe fanatic. My brother was a shoe fanatic for a time. It was ironic because he started off as like hating shoes. And he went like, I don't get why people spend so much money on shoes. And then I bought a pair of Fila's, and then suddenly he bought like 2 pairs of Nikes. And I was like, of course you did. Of course. I've never let him live that down. It's been literal years since that event happened, and I've still not let him live that down. He turns 15 tomorrow, so I hate thinking about that though. Strange. My brother's midway through being a teenager. Someone brought like $800 Air Jordans for a presentation today at work. Oh my god. Too much money. That's too much money. Listen, I like shoes, but $800 for shoes is too much. Hey man, if it makes you happy. I remember the guys in high school would always walk around with Gucci belts. That was one thing that I always saw for some reason. Everybody liked Gucci belts. Gucci belts, Air Jordans, and like Valentino bags. Those are the 3 super expensive ones I would see all the time. Oh, that's not many eyelets. There's only 3, and there's also a pattern there. Oopsies. I understood it wrong. This is why you use a reference, youngsters. Even though we're all probably very similar in age. Yeah, because this is more like that. There we go. There's only 3 as well. He only paid $130 when they came out, so it's a good deal. That is a good deal, actually. And they're worth $800 now? That's good. That's a really good deal. A lot of tangents in this design. I don't like it. Right, eyelets. This kind of eyelet is common as well. You see them a lot with Fila's, actually. Not so much Adidas and stuff like that. Do you hear me? How much I like shoes? I'm just like, oh yeah, this is what this shoe is like. This is what this shoe is like, yada yada. I don't know if you can hear my voice get strange as the stream continues. Probably can. Okay, it's 5:45. I want to get all the requests done. Oh wait, I said I was gonna do one in like ultra perspective. LOL. Okay, wait. Remind me. I'll do that. The next one. There's this Adidas. What's this one? Next one was wedges. Oh, wedge heels. Oh, but then that hides the wedge. Okay, the next shoe. um, I'll do them for the Doc Martens. Yeah. Oh, I skipped over platforms completely. Never mind. I'll do the platforms here. Now I'll do the platforms. Dang, I knew I missed the platform somewhere. It's allergy season, so I'm glad this is type chat rather than speaking. Ah, you two are victim to spring allergies. One of us. I agree. I hate spring only because it's like super like I'm allergic to all of spring. But yes, for Lovely Faye who requested a super perspective foot, that just means I'm gonna arrange the shapes a little bit different. Right? I do this for the platform because I know how to draw platforms pretty well. I'm copying these YRU shoes for these platforms, but right, it's just understanding, because this is kind of like a, you can think of it as almost like a cylinder that gets closer to you, right? So this curves a lot. How many eyelets is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. These circles are going to be a little bit flatter. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I should even these out though. Right, so they kind of angle. Literally same. I live in a desert, so the dust and pollen allergies. Dios mío. Yeah, we get a lot of dandelions where I live, so there's just I'm allergic to pollen, so I'm kind of not epic during spring. The amount of times during spring where I'd have to go like, listen, I can't come in today. I'm dying, literally. Thankfully, I'm not really going outside, so it doesn't really hit me quite as hard this year, but other years, I remember once in high school we had like our baseball unit for gym or phys ed in 9th grade, and like we had to play on the outfield, and the outfield was like just it has so many dandelions, it's more yellow than green, and like we had like I didn't take my allergy pill that day, so for the rest of the day I was like a snotty dying mess. It was like, that was not a fun day. And then I think like 3 days later, I got hit in the face with a badminton racket, so that was great. Dandelions, yeah. I never used to be like really crazy allergic to them, and then like as I got older, I was, and I'm like, wow, my immunity, it's gone. Great. So you want to make sure that all of these are really curved when you draw a shoe from the front, because you want to keep the curves in there. It's actually one thing my professor, my old animation professor said to me once. He was like, "You're losing a bit of your curve there," and I was like, "The heck does that mean?" And then and he explained it more to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." That was back when I still studied video game art. I think you spend so much time inside, your immune system just died. I've been like, I've grown up with like not the cleanest individuals. Like my immune system is pretty good. It's very rare that I get sick. Like allergies, sure, but like it's very rare that I get actually sick. Because my immune system's pretty strong, but like, yeah, no, I feel you. Curvy feet, yeah, because if your feet aren't just like a flat rectangle, to be honest, they're more like that, right? It's more like a More like a paper towel roll. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Oh, you know what? This will be tucked in. You wouldn't really see these under laces. Sometimes I find it easier to do one side of the laces and then move on to the next one. Right, so I do all of this side first, and then I move on to the next one. Or it just keeps me organized. Oh, these guys do have eyelets, so I'm gonna have to... Sometimes it is easier also to go back in with just the eraser. Kind of cut out that shape. Got a scoop. It was nice coming, chatting, watching. See ya. See ya. Thank you for joining, Flygon Pincher. I guess I could just call you Flygon. See ya. Hope to see you next week. Next week is 1 point perspective, I believe. So we'll finally be getting into perspective. Alright. Alright, 553. Maybe I can do like 2 more. What was next? It was... Combat platforms. Ah, wedge heels and then Dr. Martens. Oh, I only had 2. Oh, platform Crocs. I'll do the wedges and Dr. Martens because the wedges are not that hard. So maybe it won't take me that long. I can probably finish all these. I'm just trying to... Yeah, so wedges like this. Heels. So this is when you're going to want to draw the full foot. Right, unfortunately. So you can't cover up anything with a heel, right? You're stuck with, especially if it's open-toed, you're stuck with actually drawing the foot. In this case, you're kind of following the shape. This is too close here. Can I make it elongated just a smidge? Yeah, because I don't want to... Width. Let's make this 60, 300. There we go. So, why did I erase it? I could just lasso it. Right, so with any heel, you're going to want to copy the... Well, not copy, but like follow the curve of the bottom of the foot. Yes, so our next 3 streams will focus on 1, 2, and 3 point perspective. And then we'll get into actual background art. Sometimes you don't see the all of the toes either. Sometimes they get covered up. So don't worry if you can't always see them. Straps are another thing where you gotta kind of pay attention to how they wrap. Right? So what I can see is that these actually go in like a... Well, this one curves here. It actually doesn't go around twice. Doesn't look like... Oh, no. Probably does. So what it looks like to me is that it goes in like an X. Like that. Kind of curves that way. But of course, we're only seeing half the shoe. Or half the foot. So I don't see that. This is a common thing with heels, is that they have this back thing for the support of your heel. With wedges, they have a little finishing wrap Let me show you. This little finishing wrap that goes around the edge, the top of the heel here. Right, so they have a little bit of a finisher so you don't see all the ugly edge. That probably happens when they make the shoe. I'd love to own a pair of wedges like this. My wedges aren't this elaborate. You're an adult, Jessie. Why don't you just buy your own shoes? Yeah, one day. Kind of just following the curve of the ribbons. Right, I've kind of been warmed up by the first few shoes. Now I'm going a little bit faster. And there's that heel. The great thing about wedges is you don't have to worry about the actual, like, what's it called? You don't have to worry about the actual shape of the heel bit like that. You can just kind of leave it because it's just a wedge. It's a wedge, a big block. Sometimes it's wood, sometimes it's like foam or plastic or something, but it is a big block of something. Alright. So that's the wedge, and then it was Doc Martens. Docs. Yeah, I own this pair, so I have this pair. I don't wear them that often, which is a crime. The fact that I just don't wear them that often, that is definitely a crime. I need to wear them more. I got them years ago. My aunt got them for me, and I haven't worn them in ages. I should probably wear them for the season, because now I can go back into lighter clothes for spring. My brain, I started thinking about the outfits I could wear with this. Anyway, Docs are pretty similar to the combat boots that we did first. The thing with Doc Martens is that you know that they're Doc Martens because they have very specific design aspects to them that all Doc Martens have. Right? This yellow trim, this yellow stitching on the trim, very, very important because all Doc Martens do that. And same with the little tag on the back that you always leave sticking outwards. Very, very important. I remember I got a lot of compliments when I first wore my Doc Martens. But it was like, I didn't wear them again because they hurt the back of my heel, and that's just because I didn't break them in. I was a coward. Should have kept wearing them. Right, so they very commonly have that yellow trim. And the little tag that sticks out the back. Right, and the best thing about Doc Martens is most of the laces are black, so I don't have to worry about the inner things that go along. Or I don't have to worry about, like, erasing the insides of the laces. Alright, that's 6, so I don't think I'll be able to get the Crocs out, unfortunately. But maybe one day I'll draw platform Crocs. Platform Crocs are like, you just draw the Croc, but with a thicker heel, I suppose. right? There's a little bit of a lip, and what I mean by lip is like a little bit of a... It isn't flush with the shoe. Flush means that like there isn't like an extra edge, right? So there's a little bit of an edge here, a little bit of a lip that goes over top of it. Never forget those, because they tend to make everything look a little bit nicer. Makes it look a little bit more finished. That's with every design, right? Sometimes you want to always include that little lip that makes things feel a little more finished. So this time around I can't make the little stitch to bits yellow, but I can certainly draw them in, because it is a staple of the Doc Marten brand. It's these little yellow stitches. It's a little too high. This should be lower. You can kind of see the other side over here too. And there's a little bit of this as well, the stitch. And the tag tends to be pretty big as well. The thing with Doc Marten laces, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The thing with Doc Marten laces is that they're rounded, right? Most laces on sneakers are flat, but Doc Marten laces are rounded. So you want to make them seem that way. The best bet that you get is probably like working with a hard round brush, or rounded brush, period. Right? And because it is rounded, you want it to kind of protrude off the side as well. I'm realizing I did this wrong. This should be protruding out a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Because they're slightly platformy. They're not 100% platforms. Slightly platformy. And this should be coming out the back as well. Because Docs do have a little bit of a heel to them, but this is with most boots. And don't forget that texture underneath the boot, right? If you want to go a little bit extra, you can also just kind of erase it a little bit. Alright. With that, though, that's gonna have to do it for this stream, y'all. Thank you so much for joining once again. If you did not know, we are an art school, not just a YouTube channel, so you have the ability to check out all the classes that we offer at our website that is in the description. So click that link in the description. You'll be able to check out all the classes. I am one of the teachers, along with some of the other lovely coworkers that I have. Faye's in the chat, I believe, and then we also have Alyssa, who is behind the Wing Canvas channel right now. So be sure to check us out for that. And this file that you see before you right now, it will be uploaded to the Discord, where you can download it, save it, do whatever you want. But that will be the JPEG. So make sure that if you want this file for you to just download and take a look at, that you can join our Discord and download that. But if you want my working file, you are going to have to join our Patreon. Our Patreon is where you can get access to all of my working files, and you have access to critique days, which we will hold for our patrons, and you will also get sneak peeks into things that we will be working on in the future. But other than that, thanks so much for joining, y'all, and next week we will be doing a perspective that is 1, 2, and 3 point perspective that we will be working with for the next few weeks, and then we'll just get into background art in general. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.